This meeting is now resumed. Are there any apologies? Councillor Dixon.
Madam Chair, I wish to advise that Councillor Huang and Councillor Atwood will be absent today, and I move that they be granted a leave of absence from the meeting.
Seconded.
It has been moved by Councillor Dixon and seconded by Councillor Givney that Councillor Huang and Councillor Atwood be granted leave of absence from today's meeting. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Councillors, are there any further apologies? No. I now call on the Leader of the Opposition, Councillor Jared Cassidy, to address the chamber. Councillor Cassidy.
Yeah, got that. Thank you. Chair, over the last 12 months it's clear that this LNP Council has become an LNP regime, and Wednesday's budget is more evidence of that. This year we've been blocked 5 times from acting on homelessness, rates relief, footpaths, bushland preservation and supporting at-risk women and girls. Good ideas have been placed on ice for almost 2 years because this regime is too cowardly to reject them outright. We've started to expose the Story Bridge cover-up, but it shouldn't be this hard. Councillors have less time to ask questions, less time to speak for their communities and less time to scrutinise this LNP regime. Don't just take our word for it. The Courier-Mail revealed this week 85% of all RTI refusals across Queensland councils came from Brisbane City Council. Brisbane cannot afford another minute of this LNP regime. So now we're going to do what you're all scared of, and we're going to go out and listen to the people of Brisbane. We'll see you next week for debate and share what the people really think about your budget. Chair, I table my budget reply speech. Thank you very much.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Point of order, Councillor Johnston.
Councillor Adams and Councillor Marx are clearly shouting across the chamber. And Madam Chairman, you have not called them up. Is there some reason you're not applying the meeting's local law to them as you do to myself and others on this side of the chamber?
Councillor, I don't uphold your point of order. And need I remind you that I will look after what happens in the chamber, as is my job. I will now call upon the Deputy Mayor and Civic Cabinet Chair of the Finance and City Governance Committee, Councillor Fiona Cunningham, to reply.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's my great honour to be here today and to stick around to speak in support of another Brisbane City Council budget handed down by our Lord Mayor Adrian Schrinner. Madam Chair, once again, the Schrinner Council is proud to present a responsible budget to the ratepayers of Brisbane. A budget that strikes the right balance between keeping costs down and keeping Brisbane moving. A budget that spends within our means and doesn't pass unnecessary costs on to Brisbane residents. A budget that helps keep cost pressures down so residents don't pay more, with the cheapest rates and most generous pensioner rebates in South East Queensland. And a budget that is founded in strong financial management, with another surplus result this year, reduced borrowings and interest repayments, and reductions in net debt. Madam Chair, this is also a budget that keeps Brisbane moving. A record investment into subsidising public transport and delivering the turn-up-and-go Brisbane Metro. And it's a budget that looks ahead, planning for the Brisbane of tomorrow, where our lifestyle is even better than it is today. Madam Chair, at the last election, we committed to the people of Brisbane that we would take the pressure off household rates and rents, and that's exactly what we're focused on doing. Our plan is sensible, and this budget again shows that our plan is working. The budget does the heavy lifting so that we don't pass costs on today to residents of tomorrow. And despite economic uncertainty, a pandemic, floods, sustained inflation, global trade wars, and now a tropical cyclone, we've achieved a strong credit rating for 12 consecutive years. While inflation is slowly moving in the right direction, there is still uncertainty in global markets. When you combine this with the significant growth in the cost of council's core inputs, while at the same time moving to lessen the burden on households, these past few years have not been easy. The Reserve Bank of Australia's recent statement of monetary policy confirmed just that, mentioning uncertainty, unprecedented and unpredictable 134 times. So we know what that means for council, that cost inflation is stubborn and will continue for some time to come. A laser-like focus on keeping costs down is critical to navigating these challenging times. At the same time as costs continue to increase, support from other levels of government is sadly decreasing. It's important to remind residents that local government levies just 2.9% of taxation in Australia. Federal revenue has grown 83% over the past decade, while assistance for council has increased only 13% for the same period. Brisbane's share in federal grant funding has also materially dropped. For example, council's financial assistance grants in 24-25 were 6.8% lower than 23-24, a trend that is replicated across other grant programs. We are the largest council in Australia, and that does have some advantages. But the level of disparity we are seeing is getting worse. Simply put, Brisbane ratepayers are increasingly paying more and getting less under this federal Labor government. Even federal Parliament's inquiry into local government sustainability found council's role had, and I quote, expanded exponentially beyond roads, rates and rubbish. Yet local government financial sustainability and funding frameworks were being impacted by evolving infrastructure requirements, service delivery obligations and cost shifting, end quote. While we keep receiving less support and less funding, we're being asked to do more. The LGAQ estimates there has been a 378% increase in cost shifting onto local councils since 2002. These are the fundamental challenges facing local government day in and day out. In fact, there's a saying about government in Australia, you might know it. The federal government has all the money, the state government has all the power, and local government has all the responsibility. So federal Labor's new Brisbane MPs have a massive task: to get residents their fair share when it comes to investment. As the Lord Mayor pointed out—
Deputy Mayor, can I just pause you there? Councillor Johnson, I'm cautioning you. You know very well you're not to speak while another councillor is on their feet speaking. Councillor, it's a second caution. Deputy Mayor.
As the Lord Mayor pointed out, Brisbane has suffered far too long under the lacklustre representation in Canberra from 3 Green MPs. And while those opposite seek to characterise advocating for funding as somehow inappropriate, we know that when Brisbane residents begin to file their tax returns in a few weeks' time, they'll expect some of that money to be reinvested in roads and infrastructure here in their local communities. So instead of walking out of this chamber again today, as they did on Wednesday, they sat there on Wednesday in the kitchen to take selfies. Maybe those opposite should have picked up the phone to Cara Cook and the other new federal Labor MPs and helped push for Brisbane's fair share. We know that Councillor Cassidy continues to seed fear among council's workforce, egged on by his union masters. But the facts are this: 93% of employees who voted in the recent employee ballot voted in favour of our new certified agreement. Our 7.35% pay rise over 2 years is both fair and reasonable. Our agreement provides permanent employees with job security through no forced redundancies and associated arrangements. Through the Industrial Relations Act, Modern Awards and our agreement, Council must and does consult with employees and unions if there are changes which could have an effect on employees. But Councillor Cassidy always puts unions ahead of residents and ratepayers. We, on this side of the chamber, will always put residents first. The most important principle to remember when preparing a budget is this: it is not our money, it's residents' money, and our budget respects that. So keeping costs down and spending within our means is crucial. But what have we seen in recent budgets at other levels of government? Well, the state government's mid-year economic and fiscal review, which represents Labor's last budget update, has the state's net debt increasing a whopping 287%. A 287% increase, all thanks to Queensland Labor's reckless spending on election eve. On top of this, the downgrade to the state's credit rating outlook earlier this year just demonstrates Labor's inability to manage public money. And sadly, it gets worse. Before the last federal election, it was quietly announced that the federal government's net debt is expected to blow out by more than $200 billion over the forward estimates. In contrast, Madam Chair, we will drive down net debt by 21% from $3.7 billion in this current year to 2.9 in 28-29. On top of this, by closely managing our cash, we've decreased our forward-year borrowings by $145 million. This will reduce interest costs, saving ratepayers an estimated $87 million over the repayment term. And in this current year, we've been able to delay the drawdown of our annual borrowings until mid-June, 11 and a half months into the financial year. That is only possible because of strong financial management. Madam Chair, for a budget that apparently has no numbers, Councillor Cassidy in recent days has certainly found and misread a lot of them. He cherry-picked line items and made outlandish claims about materials and services and investment in our suburbs. Perhaps if he bothered to stick around, he would have learnt a thing or two. Because it's the Schrinner Council that's focused on our suburbs, and this budget is about delivering real value for Brisbane suburbs. Our Suburbs First guarantee ensures that more than 80% of our investment occurs in our suburbs every year, enhancing our incredible lifestyle. And this year, 85% will be invested in our suburbs. We're delivering safer school precincts in Kedron and Mansfield and planning for improvements at Indooroopilly and Wynnum Manly. And this financial year, we'll undertake the next stage of the Beams Road upgrade, an important project for our northern suburbs. There is $104 million allocated to the renewal of our road network and increased funding for road resurfacing, delivering smoother roads in suburbs right across Brisbane. The Suburbs First guarantee will also see $69.5 million for our 33 libraries this year, including the commencement of an upgrade to Bulimba Library. It's almost laughable that Councillor Cassidy would think that our entire suburban maintenance program can be drawn from one cherry-picked materials and services line item. Madam Chair, it certainly is just another porky and simply not true. The Suburban Works program for this year has increased funding allocated to deliver more works in our suburbs. So once again, Labor's claims simply don't stack up. It wouldn't be a day ending in Y without the Leader of the Opposition criticising the administration's capital investment program. So I went to have a look at Labor's record. We already know about their 4 rate hikes over 6%. But what about their capital investment that they undertook in this city? It turns out that even when adjusted for inflation, Labor invested over $100 million less per year than what we will into building for our city this year. It gets worse. In years with some of Labor's biggest rate hikes, Labor invested less than a third of what we will invest this year, less than a third, while at the same time hiking rates by 6.4%. You have to ask, what did they spend it on? As journalists have learned this week, you can't trust anything the Leader of the Opposition says. You know, recently the Prime Minister also learned this. He went on ABC radio and repeated Councillor Cassidy's claims about the maintenance of the Story Bridge, which he incorrectly characterised as a local road. It's an icon of national significance that carries 100,000 vehicles a day. The Prime Minister's willingness to support a bridge in Tasmania that carries far less is just a bridge too far. The Schrinner Council has invested more into our capital program than those opposite ever did in real terms. But we're also keeping the balanced budget, delivering the cheapest rates in South East Queensland and reducing our borrowings, repayment costs and debt, something that those opposite could never be trusted to do. In recent days, Madam Chair, I've been quite stunned as to the posturing from those opposite in regards to the publication of this year's budget. Let's have a look at the facts again. Firstly, the 25-26 annual plan and budget has been shared with councillors in the exact same way as every other submission and report that comes through this chamber, through LG Hub. Secondly, it's been shared at the exact same time as previous years, as soon as the Lord Mayor stands to deliver the budget speech. Now, Councillor Griffiths has been in place for a long time, but he's not here today. But just a few weeks ago, he made a point of moving a motion and stacking up every budget from his 22 years in council. It was quite the performance, you'll remember it. There, Councillor Griffiths was slowly stacking them all up. Even Councillor Kim had to help him out. He really thought that he was onto a winner. Councillor Griffiths picked up one of those books and waved it around. It was worth a Logie nomination. But the thing that shocked me is not that Councillor Griffiths has managed to collect every budget book from the last 2 decades. I was surprised by how well looked after they were. It's almost as if he's never actually read them. Not surprising given the recent form in this place when it comes to reports tabled in the chamber. Like an episode of Antiques Roadshow, Councillor Griffiths packed up his collection, carefully brought them into showcase, hoping that he had found gold. It would seem Councillor Griffiths enjoys collecting budget books, keeping them in pristine condition to simply display on a dusty bookshelf, forever preserving their pages and never to be read by anyone in Labor opposition. I can only assume it's the case because anybody who has read the documents would not have said things that Councillor Griffiths said during that motion. He said, and I quote, "There are no figures in the budget for last year, 0 figures." I thought perhaps Councillor Griffiths was confused and had actually dug through his large pile and found the last budget handed down by a Labor Lord Mayor. Because guess what was missing from that budget? That's right, there were no figures, no projects, not even schedules. The Suburban Works program didn't even exist. There was a glossary, that's helpful, but nowhere to find an actual Suburban Works program. It was just a Labor slush fund for a Labor administration that was rightly booted out by the people of Brisbane not long after the ink had dried. For any councillor to say that providing an electronic copy of the budget at the same time as a hard copy book has previously been provided somehow impacts a councillor's ability to read and debate it is absolutely ludicrous. The world is going digital. Stop yelling at the clouds. We had the opportunity to discuss this year's budget over the course of many days, including with our information sessions which start this afternoon. Madam Chair, it's been an extraordinary few days. Both the Labor opposition and their state colleagues have spent a lot of time, and it appears political capital, whipping up a scare campaign about a toll on the Story Bridge. I don't know how many times it needs to be said by the Lord Mayor, by the Premier, that there will be no toll on the Story Bridge. But the Australian Labor Party has never seen a scare campaign it didn't love. Just look at Mediscare. The Labor way is fear and smear. But now, Madam Chair, they've been busted. They've been busted telling tall tales. Shame. The Lord Mayor says no toll. The Premier says no toll. The Labor Party are the only people that are talking about a toll on the Story Bridge. Shame. Toll tales are brazen disinformation. We've seen the red team leave red-faced when Councillor Cassidy was caught out by journalists for staging what was a fake protest. The Courier Mail even said, and I quote, "Labor's leader in Brisbane City Council, Jared Cassidy, has kicked a spectacular own goal after denying, then admitting that he had invited protesters to the Lord Mayor's post-budget speech." And then Jared Cassidy refused to back down yesterday after the embarrassing performance. It was most unedifying, Madam Chair. While those opposite continue to stage political stunts, we will continue investing in the Story Bridge and fighting for Brisbane's fair share. In this budget, there is $5 million in funding to progress the business case, including funding from the federal government. There's $6.9 million for replacement footpath decking and an additional $6.2 towards further bridge works, building on more than $80 million already invested in the Story Bridge in recent years. Madam Chair, there's also been some fear-mongering from those from the Labor Party on rates. They talk a lot about comparing rates to inflation. Across the Lord Mayor's 7 budgets since 2019, rates have risen below inflation. I'll repeat, since this Lord Mayor handed down his
One
first
moment,
budget...
please, Deputy Mayor, I will stop you there. Councillor Johnson, please stop calling out, and I caution you a third time. Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Madam Chair. So I'll say it again. Since the Lord Mayor handed down his first budget, rates have risen below inflation. That's unlike the previous Labor administration's 4 rate hikes of over 6%. In this budget, we announce a sensible 3.87% general rate increase for owner-occupied houses. The impact for the average owner-occupier is just $1.14 a week in general rates. And Madam Chair, Brisbane residents will still pay the cheapest rates in South East Queensland. To achieve this low rate rise in the face of the current economic conditions and the funding challenges that all councils face is a testament to our hard work in keeping costs down. This October, there will also be new rating categories for units, apartments and townhouses in the CBD and CBD frame. The nature of development in Brisbane has changed from greenfield to infill, and as such, the structure of rating must be modernised. This will only apply to properties acquired from the 1st of October 2025, and existing unit and apartment owners will not be affected. Around 90% of units and apartments are only paying minimum rates, often significantly lower than houses of a similar value. It means many multi-million-dollar apartment owners in the city have a general rates bill of around $228 a quarter. This, at the end of the day, is about fairness and equity in rating. To address this, the minimum general rate for these categories will increase by $25 a quarter. But what did Councillor Cassidy have to tell the media about ensuring fairness and equity? Well, he said, and I quote, that taxing what is the most affordable housing in Brisbane. Well, the median unit price in Brisbane, confirmed by the NAB, is just under $700,000. But what are the median unit prices in the CBD and the CBD frame? Tenerife, median price for a 3-bedroom unit, 1.9. Kangaroo Point, 1.65. And Newstead, 1.6. Another own goal, once again from Councillor Cassidy, not the most affordable rates or properties in Brisbane. But even with this change, Brisbane's minimum rates for units and apartments are the cheapest in South East Queensland. Madam Chair, this budget strikes the right balance, keeping costs down just as we promised to do. We've done all this while keeping Brisbane moving. This budget also invests in every corner of our city. Madam Chair, all budgets are about choices. They show your priorities for the year ahead, and the decisions we have made as part of this budget are very clear. Spending less so residents don't have to pay more. Councillor Cassidy had a real chance to come in here today and outline his vision, his plans, his agenda for the city. But again, he's squibbed it. He's walked out. He has no new ideas, just a $3.5 billion black hole. Only Team Schooner has done the hard work and provides the strong, stable and experienced leadership needed to manage our $4.1 billion budget and Australia's largest local government. You'd think by now that those opposite would have caught on, but they still don't get it. The residents of Brisbane do. They backed us in, and now we're proud to be delivering it. Madam Chair, budgets don't just happen. There are many, many people to thank and acknowledge. Firstly, Lord Mayor, thank you for your strong leadership for our city. To CEO, Kerry Freeman, and the Organisational Services Divisional Manager, Anne Lenz. Thank you for your leadership and for your guidance. To Chief Financial Officer Mark Russell, supported by Narelle Bellini, Emma McCarthy, Arlette Griffiths-Smiths, Jenny Dowd, Matt Reward and Elizabeth West, and the entire corporate finance team, thank you for your dedication and your tireless efforts across many months and many late nights. A very big thank you as well to Aaron, who works alongside me. I'm proud to have been part of the development of this budget for Brisbane, a budget that keeps costs down for residents and keeps Brisbane moving. We look forward to delivering on this budget this year, and I commend it to the chamber. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Point of order, Chair.
Point of order, Councillor Dixon.
It's just come to my attention that Councillor Davis is unwell, so could I please move an apology for her as well?
You can.
Yep.
Seconded.
It has been moved by Councillor Dixon and seconded by Councillor Givney that Councillor Davis be granted a leave of absence from today's meeting. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against no.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
The ayes have it.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Point of order, Councillor Johnston.
Madam Chair, my understanding of the rules is that the rules have to be followed on the agenda in the order in which they are given. Apologies were number one on the agenda, and you can't then go back to that unless you suspend standing orders, move the motion properly. What you've allowed to happen here isn't in accordance with the agenda or the standing orders for the running of the meeting.
Councillor Johnston, I don't uphold your point of order. I am actually able to decide and make those decisions.
It's a procedural motion.
And it is a procedural motion if
Under Section 42.
Section 42. But again, as I've said to you in this place, I can make a ruling and accept that, and I have.
So just to be clear, just so I'm aware, and everybody else, Madam Chairman, apologies from now on are procedural motions that we can move at any time.
Councillor Johnston, if you need to get up and make a point of order and put in an apology for a colleague or somebody who is unfortunately very unwell and cannot be here, you may do so. I make that ruling. Lord Mayor, may I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that this meeting be adjourned until 9 a.m. on Wednesday, 25th of June 2025, to allow for information sessions to be held later today and also on Monday, the 23rd of June, on the budget programs.
Seconded.
Has been moved by the Lord Mayor and seconded by the Deputy Mayor that this meeting be adjourned until 9 a.m. on Wednesday, the 25th of June 2025, to allow for information sessions to be held later today and on Monday, the 23rd of June 2025, on the budget programs. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. This meeting now stands adjourned until 9 a.m. on Wednesday, the 25th of June 2025.